Lost Kings of Teotihuacan. The pre-Columbian capital of Teotihuacan was once the largest city in the Americas. Located near modern-day Mexico City, this sprawling urban center existed 1,000 years before the Aztec Empire came to power and resettled its ruins. Curiously, no royal tombs have ever been found here, but experts believe that kings were buried at Teotihuacan. In 2003, archaeologists made some headway in their search for a royal burial when they discovered an ancient tunnel below a pyramid called the Temple of the Plumed Serpent. Altogether, they found around 50,000 artifacts, including objects made from wood and obsidian. The team came one step closer to finding a king's tomb in 2015 when they found large amounts of liquid mercury at the end of the 1,800-year-old tunnel. Lead archaeologist Sergio Gomez told NBC News that he's not sure why the mercury was put there, but that it may represent a river or lake of the underworld. Excavations are ongoing, and over 100,000 artifacts have been uncovered so far, including statues, shells, jewelry, and ceramics. At the end of the 330-foot-long tunnel, at the midpoint beneath the pyramid, there are 3 chambers that have yet to be explored. In addition to thinking there may be a tomb within the complex, Gomez believes that the site was used for initiating new leaders. The tunnel was in use for at least 2 centuries and may have been created to represent the underworld. It's where priests went to carry out rituals and make offerings to their gods. Whether or not any royal burials will be found remains to be seen.
The Satara Mawa tribe. In most societies, becoming a man usually means something like getting your driver's license or making it all the way with a girl. For the Satara Mawa tribe in Brazil, becoming a man is much more painful. The Satara Mawa tribe believes that to be considered a man, they must experience the most excruciating pain imaginable. Facing that pain would prove their strength and worthiness. According to the tribal chiefs, a life lived with no kind of suffering or effort is hardly worth anything at all. The leaders subjected boys as young as 12 years old to hundreds and hundreds of bites from bullet ants. The bullet ant has the most painful sting in the animal kingdom. Entomologist Justin Schmidt, the inventor of the Schmidt Sting Pain Index, said the sting of a bullet ant was like huge waves and crescendos of burning pain. It wasn't just 2 or 3 of these waves. It continued for around 12 hours. Crash, recede, crash. It was absolutely excruciating. That was just one bullet ant. For the Satara Mawa initiation ritual, boys put on gloves made of leaves that are filled with dozens of these ants. Then, they must keep the gloves on for 10 minutes while performing a ritual dance. Then they do it repeatedly for a total of 20 times. The boys experience unimaginable pain, shake uncontrollably for hours, and sometimes experience muscle paralysis, disorientation, and hallucinations. Once the ritual is complete, the boy is now a man, ready to face the dangers of the Amazon rainforest.
Alien coinage. A group of people renovating a house in the south of Egypt stumbled upon a small collection of very strange coins that appeared to be ancient. The coins depict an alien figure dressed in what appears to be a Roman toga with some strange letters stamped along the edges. On the other side of the coins is something that looks an awful lot like a spaceship hovering above the ground. The coins don't show any human figures or really anything that suggests that they came from Earth. UFO hunters have been trying to convince people that the coins are direct evidence that aliens were here a very long time ago, and that they either brought their own money with them or made these coins here on Earth. The strange words on the coins have been since identified as ancient Latin, translating to, "It's here in due time." We don't know what exactly that means or even where these coins could have possibly come from. Mainstream scientists have yet to elaborate on the discovery, neither verifying nor coming forward to disprove the artifacts. They could be part of some elaborate hoax or real coins left behind by a race of alien visitors. Shrieking death whistles. The sound of the Aztec shrieking death whistle is arguably one of the most terrifying noises a person can hear. Writing for Discovery, Ruben Westmoss described the whistle as sounding like a screeching zombie, if zombies screeched instead of moaned. But no one has actually ever met a zombie, so who knows what they sound like, right? Anyways, these macabre musical instruments may have had numerous uses, but archaeologists are unsure of what they were. But they do know that the shrieking death whistles were used during human sacrifices. Back in the 90s, researchers in Mexico found the 500-year-old decapitated remains of a sacrificial victim clinging to a death whistle. One of the scientists blew into it and discovered its high-pitched, death-like scream. Music archaeologist Arnd Adjaboth told Gizmodo that the different airstreams generated within the structure are what give it its shrill sound. In addition to being used for human sacrifices, Aztec shrieking death whistles may have been used in healing rituals and/or for military purposes.
Cicada 3301. Not every secret ritual involves ancient tribes deep in the jungle. Some secret societies possibly still exist to this very day. This ritual is so modern, it involves cryptography, internet puzzles, hacking, and more. There's even a feature film about this secret society. We're talking about Cicada 3301. It all started in 2012 with a mysterious image posted on the website 4chan. The image, signed by 3301, was just white text on a black background that read, "We are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised a test. There is a message hidden in this image." And just like that, the race began. What began as finding a hidden message in an image file turned into an online scavenger hunt with increasingly more complex puzzles. Supposedly, Cicada 3301 used these puzzles as an initiation ritual to find people skilled in cryptography and cybersecurity. One person who solved the puzzle and claims to have been part of the group said that he eventually worked on a coding project for Cicada 3301. He said that he barely knew what was going on. "I wasn't sure what I was getting into. They insinuated they were part of a bunch of different organizations," he said. To this day, no one is sure if Cicada 3301 was just an elaborate prank, a government recruiting tool, or something even more nefarious. For now, the secret society appears to have gone dark, or perhaps they have just gone deeper into hiding.
Tablets of curses. In Serbia, archaeologists discovered small parchments of gold and silver inscribed with what they believe to be ancient curses. These bizarre tablets were found alongside the skeletons of a few people at an excavation site in the northeast. Archaeologist Miomir Korac and her team scoured the site, which they say was once the Roman city of Venetian. But let's break down these creepy tablets. The artifacts were covered in symbols and writings which have yet to be fully deciphered. 2,000 years ago, when the tablets were made, it wasn't uncommon for Greco-Romans to ask the gods, and in some cases even the dead, to perform acts of cruelty upon their rivals. One of these newly found scrolls was even written in ancient Aramaic, invoking the name of the demon Baal. But the rest of them haven't been translated yet because they don't contain enough recognizable text. They are instead inscribed mostly with unknown symbols that may represent cosmic forces. They were all definitely curses, but archaeologists are still trying to figure out just what exactly their intended purpose was. Skull ring. While metal detecting in the Welsh community of Carreghofa, David Balfour encountered a gold ring decorated with a skull made from white enamel with the surrounding inscription Memento Mori, a Latin phrase that translates to "Remember that you die." South Wales Central Senior Coroner Graham David Hughes officially classified this spooky jewelry as treasure, a designation that makes them the property of the UK government. Based on its style, shape, and script, the ring was likely crafted between 1550 and 1650, during either the Tudor or early Stuart periods, according to Mark Redknapp of the National Museum Wales, who said in a statement that the rare piece symbolizes the high mortality of the time, as well as the vanity and brevity of life. It likely belonged to an elite member of society. The memento mori theme was common in artwork at certain points in history. While these types of artifacts tend to strike us as morbid, they were more or less intended as an optimistic reminder to make the most of one's fragile and short time on Earth, according to ArtNet. The ring was examined along with a trove of other recently discovered, less creepy Welsh artifacts, including 3 hoards of gold and silver coins, gold and silver jewelry, and personal accessories dating back between the 9th and 17th centuries.
The Order of the Skull and Bones. How about a secret society whose members include former US presidents? Formed at the prestigious Yale University in 1832, the Order of the Skull and Bones continues to recruit members into its hidden folds to this very day. Each year, they invite 15 senior Yale students to take part in the initiation ritual for the Skull and Bones. The ritual takes place in a place appropriately named the Tomb. In a giant windowless fraternity house, they only allow members and initiates inside to participate in secret meetings and rituals. One reporter allegedly infiltrated and recorded the most sacred of rites for the Skull and Bones initiation ritual. The reporter said that the ritual involved initiates enduring obscene sexual insults, an imitation throat-cutting murder, and kissing an actual human skull. They finally bring initiates into the Order of the Skull and Bones by chanting the mantra, "The hangman equals death, the devil equals death, death equals death." Some say that the Order of the Skull and Bones is nothing more than an overblown college frat house. Conspiracy theorists believe that the Skull and Bones are part of a plot to establish a new world order, and the society controls the CIA. Whatever the case, both former President George W. Bush and former Secretary of State John Kerry confirmed that they were part of the order.
Tree skeleton. In New Haven, a tree fell over to reveal a human skeleton. Tangled in the exposed roots was a collection of bones, rusted nails, and wood fragments that have since been collected by medical examiners. One of these examiners was Connecticut state archaeologist Nicholas Bellantoni. According to the researchers, this part of New Haven was once used as a mass burial ground during the days of the colonists. And judging by just how many bones were found tangled in with the tree trunks, there was more than one person buried here. If the archaeologists keep digging, chances are they could find more bodies than they'll know what to do with. For right now, all that's been uncovered is a skull, a spine, and a rib cage in the base of the tree itself. But these are likely from more than one individual. The archaeologists believe the bodies had been buried in the late 1700s and that there could be up to 5,000 more in the area. Altamura Man. Sometime between 187,000 and 128,000 years ago, a male Neanderthal fell to the bottom of a 26-foot deep well and died from either hunger or dehydration. His remains were discovered in 1993 inside a karst cave in Puglia, Italy. Known as the Altamura Man for the town he was found near, the man's bones had become covered in calcite over the many thousands of years following his death. Because archaeologists believe that removing his remains from the well would kill him, they extracted a bone fragment for analysis and obtained a DNA sample. It is the oldest known Neanderthal DNA ever obtained by experts. In 2016, researchers constructed a highly realistic model of the Neanderthal's face and body. He was short with a large nose, a protruding jawline, and an elongated cranium. While the individual's body was characteristic of other Neanderthals that scientists have found, his head was shaped slightly differently. Paleontologist Giorgio Manzi described the Altamura Man as having archaic traits and representing a sort of morphological bridge between Neanderthals and a previous human species called Homo heidelbergensis. This makes sense since he lived during the earlier days of the Neanderthal's existence, which lasted from 200,000 to around 40,000 years ago.
Porro Society. Found in remote regions of Sierra Leone, Liberia, and the Ivory Coast, the Porro Society is an extreme boys' club. They only allow men into the group through secret initiations. The roots of the secret society run deep, with evidence of its existence going back to 1000 AD. Because it's been around for so long, they consider becoming a member of the Porro Society an important rite of passage for adolescent boys. Once a member, they elevate the boys in social status, prestige, and even politically. To become a member of the Porro Society, they subject boys to sleeping in groups in the wild, far away from friends and family. They are led by a chief known as Beni to learn secret Porro traditions, including drumming and song. It's not all song and dance though. Part of the initiation involves grueling self-mutilation, cutting, stabbing, and scarring themselves. Once they complete their initiation, they return home as full-grown adults. According to one study, most male adults that hold an elite position of power are part of the Porro Society because of the symbolic power of the group. That same study found that members use their position within the Porro Society to evade the law and go unpunished for human rights violations in the name of defending culture.
Terrifying spiders. Scientists in Georgia have made what could be the creepiest discovery in recent memory that actually has a real-world effect, at least an effect on people living in Georgia. The Joro spider is an invasive species of arachnid that only recently began to grow in numbers. But scientists are now warning residents in northern Georgia that the species is no longer growing slowly, but at an alarming rate. This terrible spider is a native of Asia. It has colorful yellow stripes, and it was first sighted by researchers at the University of Georgia sometime in 2013. Researchers say it probably made its way to Georgia inside shipping containers from China or Japan. And guess what? They've also been found in Greenville, South Carolina. The spiders are starting to creep across America. Rick Hobeck, who has been tracking the various sightings, says they are here to stay and won't be going anywhere. And this is creepy for one major reason. The Joro spider is huge and alarming. The Joro spider may not be dangerous, but it's certainly frightening, and their numbers are multiplying so fast that if you live in the area, chances are you're going to find one in your house very soon. For anyone who lives in the Georgia area, have you seen any of these terrifying yellow spiders just yet? And if so, what was your immediate reaction? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Skull Tower of Nice. In 1809, Serbian rebels suffered a crushing defeat by the Turks amid a widespread rebellion against the Ottoman Empire called the Serbian Revolution. In what became known as the First Serbian Uprising, the vastly outnumbered Serbs realized that their options for fighting against the Turks were limited. With 36,000 enemy troops at their doorstep, it became clear that their only realistic choices were to surrender or flee. But Commander Stevan Shindielic refused to go down without a fight. In a last-ditch effort to eliminate as many Turks as possible, and as a final show of disrespect toward Turkish General Hurshi Pasha, Shindielic entered a fully stocked ammunition supply room and shot a gunpowder keg. The victors built a tower with the decapitated skulls of 952 Serbian soldiers. Known as the Cele Kula, or the Skull Tower of Nice, the macabre structure is located in modern-day Serbia. General Pasha commissioned it after the battle as a warning to anyone who might be tempted to cross him. He was outraged at Sindielic's behavior and ordered his men to mutilate the Serbian fighters' corpses. The 15-foot-tall, 13-foot-wide structure originally consisted of 56 rows with 17 skulls each. The Serbs finally drove out the Ottomans in 1878. In 1892, the Serbian government built a chapel around the tower. Many families retrieved the skulls of their fallen loved ones. Today, only 59 skulls remain at the site, attracting some 30,000 visitors every year.
Sandy. The Sandy is essentially the female version of the Porro Society. Existing in many of the same regions as the Porro, the Sandy initiation is much like the Porros. They seclude the girls deep in the woods, far from their homes. But it gets much worse from there. part of the Sandy initiation involves female genital mutilation, or FGM. It's as gruesome and painful as it sounds. Many regions where the Sandy exists are still trying to fight the barbaric ritual, but for the Sandy, it's meant to help women bear children. The scars exist to prove that the women are part of the Sandy. They teach them their womanly duties, including domestic skills, farming, and medicine. After the initiation and education are complete, the women return home and are eligible for marriage. Some women escape the horrid ordeal and try to spread awareness. One survivor said they forcibly took her from her home like a criminal and beat her severely. Another said that they forced the girls to lie in the blistering sun with nothing but a leaf on their backs and told them to stay in the sun until the leaf dried out. Fortunately, progress is being made against these awful initiation practices. Political leaders in Liberia have enforced a strict 3-year ban on all Sandy practices in the region.
A satanic shack. An urban explorer named Adam Corkill was checking out an abandoned house in the countryside of Taunton in England when he found more than he bargained for. According to Adam, the house appeared to have been empty for at least 20 years. The kitchen was dilapidated, covered with cracked and broken floor tiles from the 1970s. The walls were damp and rotting. The whole place looked like it needed to be torn down immediately. But beyond the ordinary weirdness of an abandoned home, Adam also discovered traces of possible satanic activity. The hallway was covered in graffiti, including some obscure references to Satan. There was no evidence that anything foul had taken place, although it was honestly pretty hard to tell. The sofa was flipped on its side, personal items were scattered everywhere, and the entire back wall of the house had already fallen down. It's not clear why the owners left, who was inside writing Satan's name on the wall, or even if the house is filled with ghosts. Venetian vampire. In 2006, archaeologists discovered the remains of a female vampire in a 16th century grave filled with plague victims on the Venetian island of Lazzaretto Nuovo. A brick had been jammed into the woman's jaw, forcing her mouth open. This was an exorcism technique that people practiced on suspected vampires at the time. The skeleton represented the first ever discovery of an alleged human vampire. A few years after being found, a study was conducted to try identifying the woman, why people thought she was a vampire, and what she looked like. The team determined that she was between 61 and 71 years old when she died. Most European women didn't live nearly that long at the time, so the woman's age was shocking. She lived mostly on vegetables and grains, indicating that she was probably from a lower class and likely lived a rather ordinary life. At the time, many people believed in vampires. This notion was partially fueled by a dark fluid that flowed from the nose and mouth of corpses during the decomposition process. When gravediggers reopened mass burials to add the bodies of recently deceased plague sufferers, they may have mistaken this fluid as the blood of vampire victims. Sometimes burial shrouds became soaked in the fluid and sank into the dead bodies' mouths, making it look as though they had chewed on the cloth. And soon enough, the plague was blamed on vampires. To stop the spread of the deadly disease, people wedged objects into the mouths of the dead. Other suspected vampires have been found since then, including one that was unearthed in Poland in 2014.
The Freemasons. Of all the secret societies, this is probably one of the more popular ones. That kind of defeats the purpose of it being a secret, doesn't it? Anyway, the Freemasons have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. They still shroud many of their rites and rituals in mystery. All Masonic rituals take place in a lodge, their secret meeting place. Since we can find Freemasons all over the world, each lodge may have its particular standards and practices. For example, some may have their initiation rituals written in a script, while others may not. This lack of standardization helps further keep the Freemasons shrouded in mystery. All Freemason initiation rituals heavily involve symbolism, with Freemasonry being described as a beautiful system of morality, veiled in allegory, and illustrated by symbols. Most initiations involve different degrees, some up to 3 degrees of initiation, from apprentice to master. Some lodges will also use tracing boards, illustrated depictions of emblems and imagery, to teach new initiates about being a Freemason. Once initiation is complete, members use secret hand signs, handshakes, or spoken codes to gain access to meetings or identify each other in public. There have been some very famous Freemasons throughout history. Do you know any of them? Leave your answers in the comments below.
The mummy who opens her eyes. Rosalia Lombardo died at the young age of 2, stricken by pneumonia in the year 1920. Today, she is one of the best preserved mummies in the world. She looks so much like she did at the time of her death that some people swear she opens her eyes and looks directly at them. Rosalia is hidden in an obscure Sicilian catacomb. When she died, her father was so stricken by grief that he went to an embalmer named Alfredo Salafia to turn his girl into a mummy. Whatever Alfredo did, it worked. Her internal organs are still perfectly intact 100 years later. Her face is so fresh that it looks like she's sleeping, and occasionally you can see her bright blue irises when she, quote-unquote, opens her eyes. She's one of the 8,000 mummies that were discovered underneath the Capuchin convent in modern times, located in Sicily. But the truth is that she doesn't actually open her eyes. In 2009, the Italian biological anthropologist Dario Piombino Mascali debunked the myth. He says it's an optical illusion produced by light filtering through the side of a window. During the day, the change in the light makes it look as though her eyelids are opening when in fact they aren't. Still, she's without a doubt the most impressive mummy and one of the creepiest that you can see today. Prehistoric pregnant burial. A woman died while pregnant with twins around 40,000 years ago in what is now Hungary. She and her unborn babies were cremated and buried in a Bronze Age urn cemetery among hundreds of other graves. As part of an effort to better understand the little understood Vatia culture that the woman was part of, researchers recently examined the burial's contents. It contained noticeably lavish goods, including a golden hairpiece, a bronze neck ring, and 2 bone pins. Inside the urn were the bones of 2 fetuses who perished along with their mother about 30 weeks into her pregnancy. The woman died during her late 20s or early 30s. Based on her luxurious grave goods, she was probably a highly respected member of her community. It was also clear that every effort was taken to ensure that every fragment of the woman and her baby's remains were placed into the urn, unlike the cemetery's other burials, which are far less complete. A tooth and bone analysis revealed that she likely migrated to the regions as a child from the area encompassing the modern-day Czech Republic. Her elite burial suggests that she married a high-ranking member of the Vatia community, only for her life to be tragically cut short. The woman's cause of death is undetermined, but pregnancy or childbirth-related complications are a safe guess.
Leopard Society. Have you ever heard stories of cannibals that live in the darkest jungles of Africa? Well, some of those stories might be true, and they might involve the Leopard Society. Existing at least from the 1700s until the early 1900s, members of the Leopard Society wore leopard skin clothing and hunted with weapons made from leopard claws and teeth. The Leopard Society would hunt unsuspecting travelers that would pass through their lands. Once they had their prey, they would cut off their flesh and organs. The blood and body organs of the victims were used to ward off evil spirits, prevent illnesses, and defend against spiritual attacks. Sometimes they drank the victim's blood for more strength on their next hunt. Edgar Rice Burroughs borrowed heavily from the idea of the Leopard Society in the novels Tarzan and the Leopard Men. Interestingly, the leopard skin clothing also inspired some of the costume designs for the tribes of Wakanda in Marvel's Black Panther film. The Leopard Society no longer seems to exist in modern Africa. One scholarly article said that the depictions of African people as barbarians and savages have caused concern for the representation of of Africa. The same study states that these fictional accounts contribute to stereotypical and racist representations of past African societies being overemphasized. It's certainly an interesting take on the old school ideas of cannibals. What do you think? Tell me in the comments.
Two-headed cobra. The only thing creepier than one cobra is a cobra with two heads. In India, forest officials stumbled upon a very strange creature in the jungle. Adil Mirza, a snake expert who's been working with the forest department for over 15 years, was the first one to lay eyes on the two-headed spectacled cobra. This literal freak of nature had two heads growing out of its neck and pointing in opposite directions. According to Adil, he had never, in all his years of encountering snakes, seen something like it. The serpent appeared to be less than 2 weeks old, only about 1.5 feet long, but oddly enough, it was still alive. Snakes with this extreme of a deformity almost never survive in the wild because they can't catch enough prey to sustain themselves. Luckily for this one, it was sent to the nearby Dehradun Zoo to be examined and kept alive by a veterinarian. With human intervention, this two-headed snake might actually live a full life.
Books bound in human skin.
A 2014 study found that a book called De Destiny de l'Âme, or Destinies of the Soul, was bound in human skin. The researchers determined that the literary work was probably wrapped with the skin of an unidentified female mental patient who died from natural causes. Written by French novelist Arsène Houssaye, the book ended up in the hands of the author's friend, Dr. Ludovic Bolland, during the late 19th century. For reasons we can only guess, Dr. Bolland proceeded to bind it in human skin. This practice, known as anthropodermic bibliophagy, dates at least as far back as the 19th century and maybe even older. The Bristol Record Office in the UK owns another human skin-bound book, which is wrapped with the flesh of 18-year-old John Horwood, the first man to be hanged at Bristol jail. The disturbing work contains details of Horwood's gruesome murder of a woman named Eliza Balsam. Notorious murderer William Burke's skin was used for binding a small brown pocketbook following his execution in 1829. In a disturbing twist, the book's cover is stamped with his death date. There are no pages inside the appalling artifact, which would have been used for storing money and other personal effects. How and why the man's skin came to be used for the pocketbook's manufacture are a mystery to this day. Speaking with the BBC, Emma Black from the Royal College of Surgeons explained that some of Burke's skin went missing during a dissection of his remains. Soon enough, the pocketbook turned up for sale in Edinburgh, Scotland. In 1852, another murderer named George Cudmore's skin was used to cover a copy of the poetical works of John Milton after he was put to death for killing his wife. Public records confirm that Cudmore's body was dissected, but how and why samples of his skin were kept long enough to bind a book are unknown.
The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. They formed the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, or just the Golden Dawn, in London in 1887. They are a secret society involved in the occult, the metaphysical, and the supernatural. Some famous members of the Golden Dawn include Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Bram Stoker, and W.B. Yeats. Founded by former Freemasons, the Golden Dawn shared similar initiation rites and degrees to the Freemasons. Unlike other secret societies, the Golden Dawn allowed women to join. This was a pretty big deal back in the late 1800s. Supposedly, they wrote the rituals for the Golden Dawn down in the cipher manuscripts. They discovered the 56-folio bundle of encoded writings, decoded, and found them to contain many occult rituals, including Kabbalah, astrology, tarot, and more. No one knows who originally wrote the cipher manuscripts, and some believe that they were nothing more than forgeries. After many revolts and splinter groups formed, the Golden Dawn only lasted around the 1970s. An organization filed under the name Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn for non-profit status in 1988. They granted that same organization a trademark and patent for the symbol of the Golden Dawn in 1997. Could this occult secret society still lurk out there today? What do you think?
Creepy graffiti. Ancient Roman graffiti has been discovered in Pompeii, with experts saying the Romans may have been just as disgusting with their graffiti as some people are today. Most of us already know the story of Pompeii. In the year 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupted, and everyone in the city died from an explosion of heat and gas and were buried under ash for 2,000 years. The entire city is immaculately preserved, including the graffiti, and even though most of the graffiti has faded over time, the stuff that hasn't is downright creepy. Graffiti here has been cataloged since the 1800s. Archaeologists have found some disturbing portrayals of city prostitutes carved into walls, wildly inappropriate insults seemingly aimed at one's enemies, and even stuff so simple as, "I was here." And while some of this stuff is humorous, a lot of it is so raunchy and gross that I can't even repeat it. Apparently, Romans had a seriously sick sense of humor, and they let everyone know by carving their dirtiest thoughts on the city walls. Mass burial of children. While working on a roadway in southeastern Poland in mid-2020, a work crew discovered human bones. Local archaeologists were summoned to the scene, where they found out what they described as a frightening 17th century mass grave containing the remains of at least 119 people, mostly children. The youths were laid to rest with coins in their mouths. This was part of a pre-Christian burial tradition called Obols of the Dead, or Charon's Obol. The coins were placed in the mouths of the dead as a payment to Charon, the mythical ferryman who carried the souls of the newly deceased across a river that separated the land of the living from the land of the dead. The practice lasted well into Christian times, according to archaeologist Katarzyna Oleszek, who spoke with the First News. Some of the coins found at the site date back to the reign of King Sigismund Vasa, who ruled Poland from 1587 to 1632. Other coins, known as Boratynsky, were minted between 1648 and 1668 during the reign of John II Casimir. There are no grave goods, indicating that the people buried at the site came from a poor community. Oleszek pointed out that the cemetery is undoubtedly Catholic in nature, based on the arrangement of the burials and the fact that they are well cared for. Between 70 and 80% of the individuals were children when they died. This may reflect the high child mortality rate at the time. The cemetery's presence confirms long-standing local rumors of a nearby children's graveyard. The team that exhumed the remains announced plans to study and respectfully rebury them.
The Illuminati. The Illuminati seem to be the granddaddy of all secret societies, and for good reason. No one is sure where the line is between fact and fiction with the Illuminati. If they exist, that's probably exactly how they want it. The Illuminati existed in Bavaria way back in 1776, formed by Adam Weishaupt. Weishaupt wanted to eliminate all religions and topple every government, so mankind could live peacefully and as equals. But that group supposedly only lasted for 10 years. Many modern-day groups claim to have ties back to the original Illuminati, but we can prove no actual linkage. Members of the Illuminati would have secret code names for one another. Like the Freemasons, they also heavily use symbolism, such as the Owl of Minerva and the All-Seeing Eye. Initiates would have to undergo a grueling 3-year process to be allowed into their society. Once allowed in, it would force them to secrecy under the punishment of death. Which mysterious ritual surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. See you soon.